what I need is a mic level from you. So, can you tell me a little bit? This is Ray Hanson, Hanson.
Yep,
Okay, because there's going to be a crawl underneath you with your name and so forth. And
like
we
a
were,
mug shot,
huh?
like a mug shot.
Well, you kind of like that, yeah. No number, no number. Um, we were talking about the idea of the correction that you would make to compensate for bullet drift between, say, example, your 300-yard setting and your 1,000-yard setting. Could you explain this idea?
Yes. Uh, Part of it has to do with the ballistics of the rifles we use and the velocities they travel at. Roughly, let's say 1,200 to 1,400 feet per second. But it happens to any rifled projectile that's spinning, and its rotational spin is lost at a much slower rate than its forward velocity. Therefore, it starts to drift in the direction of its spin. Since in the United States, the standard for rifling twist is right hand. Therefore, the bullets will drift to the right. This is particularly noticeable with .22 rimfire and with our black powder cartridges and muzzleloader. But it happens to a 50 caliber machine gun cartridge too. It happens to all of them. So, at these velocities, and in particular 40-45 caliber at 1,200 to 1,400 feet per second, you're drifting approximately 1 minute of angle at 600 yards. You'll drift 2 minutes of angle at 800, and you'll drift 3 minutes of angle at 1,000. And that doesn't matter what rifle you're shooting, doesn't matter what bullet you're shooting. If you're shooting a black powder cartridge rifle or muzzleloader in that performance parameters, it will happen. And you may not think it's happening, you may not be able to tell it's happening, but I assure you that it is happening, and it's a matter of physics. It happens to all cartridges.
And the way you correct for that is to do what?
Well, there's the best is to have a wind gauge front sight and then have a perfect, let's say 200 yard zero, and then preemptively put 1 minute of left windage in if you were shooting at 600 yards, 2 minutes at 800, and ideally 2.5 at 900, and 3 at 1,000. In not having a wind gauge front sight, and I set my long range rifles at 2.5 minutes left, zero wind, zero at 300 yards. It's a little bit tedious to it's not hard to remember, but you got to deal with it, of course, at mid-range competition. It's a lot easier to deal with problems at mid-range than it is at long range, but it's perfectly zeroed then. So if you're shooting along, you have a left to right component, and you got 6 minutes left windage in, or 9 minutes, and it reverses. If the reversal's the same, you put 6 or 9 minutes in right windage, hey, you're good to go. If you don't have that, you're going to have to remember to 3 less, and it's like running downhill. You just get ahead of yourself. 1,000 yard zero is imperative for a long range rifle, and wind gauge front sight is the best, but in lieu of a wind gauge front sight, just zero your rifle in for 2.5 minutes left.
From your 300-yard setting.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You bet.